I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into a children's book with a powerful environmental message. It is called Waiting for the Water Train. It's written by a terrific author. Her name is Virginia DeFrancisco. This beautifully illustrated story teaches kids about water conservation through the eyes of a curious little girl named Emma. With climate change and droughts on the rise, this timely book is making waves with readers of all ages. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below the interview. And be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Virginia, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
It's nice to be here.
You live in California. There's lots of droughts. There's lots of wildfires. Water, of course, is in short supply. So you know a lot about climate change. You know a lot about water shortages. Is that the inspiration behind this story?
Yes, I grew up in a small mining town in the Mojave Desert near the Colorado River, except for we weren't near enough. So we didn't have a well. So we had a daily water train. And I grew up there until I was in third grade. And then we moved to a town that had a well.
A water train is something I never heard of. I think most people probably have never heard of. So your water was delivered every day, and what
Yes.
did you fill up containers? Tell us how that worked.
It went to a little water tower and then it was distributed through pipes into the little town. It was very, very small. I mean, at one time there was only like 500 people living there, and it's a gypsum mine, and my father was a miner. And so I learned about hydrogeology and geology at an early age. And this book has a little spread with hydrogeology for kids because they don't know where water comes from.
Yeah, exactly. I think most people don't know where water comes from, other than rain, they would tell you. But there's a lot more to it than that. And I think it's great to expose children and adults to the
Mhm.
various concepts contained within this book. Most people don't wait on water trains, of course, but it's very interesting to learn about them. What are some of the lessons that you hope children take away from your book?
Well, that water is really precious, and there is no new water. Uh, you know, what we have is what we have on the earth. And so I think that's really important, and to conserve water. And I'm hoping that this book, along with the information in the back for the teachers, will inspire future voters to vote for water infrastructure in California, because 70% of the rainwater runs off into the ocean.
Yeah. Something
So,
needs to be
yeah,
done, no doubt. I mean, just
right.
witnessing the wildfires over the last few months is evidence enough that things are being mismanaged when it comes to
Yeah,
forestry and with water infrastructure, as you
yeah,
say.
exactly.
This book is beautifully illustrated, as I mentioned as well. Tell us about the illustrator and your collaboration with the illustrator.
Well, I met Svetlana Holovchenko through another author that I know, and I saw her book, and I'm like, wow, tell me about your illustrator. Do you mind if I use the same illustrator? And of course, she was so generous and offered. And Svetlana uh, went to art school in Russia when she was young, and she lived in Ukraine. And the town she grew up in now is in the war.
Mhm.
But she lives in Germany, and she works as a freelance artist, but she's busy all the time. And she's a wonderful person.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And a talented artist, no doubt, and helps bring your story to life, which is the most important part when it comes to telling your story.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the story. Give the folks at home an overview of Emma's experiences.
It starts out with Emma making mud pies, and she wastes water. She's got a sprinkler on and she's got a big mud puddle. And when she gets dirty, she goes in the house and she does an overflowing bathtub, bubble bath. And her brother warns her, says, "You're a water waster,"
Mhm.
and it really hurts her feelings. So they do run out of water. And she has to go with her family to wait for the water train. And you're right, they did fill up buckets for immediate needs, to wait for the water to come through the pipes.
Mhm.
And so she's trying, and her brother was kind of mean to her. So she has her feelings hurt. And so she's walking home with her bucket, which is very heavy. And he runs and he says, I can carry two. It's a way of kind of making up. And then she realizes, and she runs up to him and says, I can carry one. And
Mhm.
they get home and they give water to the pets and they water their tiny little morning glory because there's
Wonderful.
nothing out there but sand and rocks and lizards. And
Exactly. You see a flower, you appreciate it, no doubt, when you're
yes,
living in
exactly. Yeah, one flower.
barren environments, no doubt.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Your background is in teaching and school psychology. Tell us a little bit a bit about how that influenced your writing and the message that you delivered to children.
Absolutely. I taught over 30 years, mostly third grade and fourth grade. And the fourth grade curriculum, third grade curriculum also touches on it, but the fourth grade curriculum is in California. And there's nothing in the state curriculum about water, hydrogeology. There's like a 1 day, 2 day thing, Earth Day, around there,
Mhm.
but nothing specifically about hydrogeology, where aquifers. And I do an experiment with the kids. I fill up a 5 gallon container and they measure out like a tablespoon here and a droppers here, and it represents the glaciers, the lakes, all the water in the sky. And it just barely makes the 5 gallon tank go down, and that's seawater, and the rest is fresh water. And so that's why I say there's no new water, no new fresh water. It's what we got. We got to protect from pollution. And when there's scarcity, we have to protect ourselves from losing it.
Yeah.
And like you said, the wildfires in Los Angeles County, which were devastating, they ran out of water.
Mhm. Exactly. It's almost a sin that they're using fresh water to fight those fires when I guess seawater could be utilized as well.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that can be done if we think outside of the box. Unfortunately, it seems like the American electorate and the American politicians only want instant answers. If it doesn't work immediately, it's off the table.
You're so right. You're so
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
there's no long game. And
Yeah.
you really can't win like that with no long game.
Right.
So we won't get into a discussion of politics, but it certainly impacts water conservation and water infrastructure in California and beyond. Have you envisioned the story as a children's film or an animated cartoon or something
Yeah.
like that to bring it to a different audience?
Yeah, an animated cartoon I think would be for kids,
Yeah.
mostly because that captures their attention. And I just want to say one thing about the long game. That is my mission. The long game is the voters, the
Mhm.
future voters. And if they understand where water comes from, it might help. And I
Yeah.
only can do a few 100,000, 1,000 children because I do Water Day here in Orange County, and things like that to get, because I'm not a teacher, I'm a school psychologist.
Mhm.
Uh, so, but every opportunity I get, I go into classrooms sometimes and school assemblies to do this, to talk
Yeah.
about what
Also,
I,
we live in this wonderful country where
yes,
we can turn on pretty much any tap and drink the water without repercussion.
yeah,
Whereas you travel around the world and there are signs on the water, this is not for drinking.
yes,
So, we've got it great here. And if you want it to continue being great, we've got to have a little bit of a conscience, right?
absolutely. And that's what I want to instill in the children. Um, Sometimes they don't even know what is man-made and what is nature.
Exactly, exactly.
True.
Particularly when they come to water, you ask kids today, where does water come from? They probably say in Evian bottles.
Right.
Yeah,
Or the faucet, but
exactly,
Evian bottles probably would be the number one answer.
exactly.
Emma wakes up one morning and the faucet she turns on and there's no water
Hmm.
comes out. That's her wake up call.
Yeah, yeah. The pandemic, I would think, was a wake-up call as well. I mean, because a lot of society could have broken down if this was worse. I mean, can
Mm,
you imagine if this virus was more deadly? I mean, people wouldn't be going to the water plants, or internet would have failed, or grocery stores would have been empty. And, we were inconvenienced by it that we had to wait for Instacart to bring our groceries to us, but it all worked, thank goodness.
yes,
But
yes.
again, we have to think long-term gains here. And I don't think anything has changed since the pandemic. Do you?
No, and there's a small portion of the state of California that has had more rain, and it's significantly improved. And the farmers, I give them so much credit, of the Central Valley have figured out ways to recharge their aquifers on their own without infrastructure, just by flooding the fields and above the aquifers. So that's a farmers make do, they're doing it, and so I'm really proud of them.
Mm,
But the other rest of the state, well, even the Central Valley actually, but is still in drought or severe drought.
yeah. And it probably will stay that way. I mean, because pretty much California and other Western and Southern areas have built in places where there wasn't really supposed to be a population.
Exactly.
Yeah.
South Western states, and I know other states, and even Mexico City is due to run out of water.
Yeah. It's a
Mexico
scary,
City,
scary prospect. It's the number
yeah,
one thing we need to survive more than food.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
In another book I'm writing, a middle grade book, the first line has to do with it takes 72 hours to die without
Mm.
water.
Wow. Okay.
Three
Well,
days of thirst.
that's impactful, and I think
Yes,
people remember it. And like I said, you can live longer without food than water. And thank goodness it didn't get to that during the pandemic. But like I said, if this virus was more deadly, I doubt people would have been showing up at resource recovery plants and, the water company and so forth. So
yeah.
I think we do need some forward-thinking, long-planning leaders in this country. The name of the book is Waiting for the Water Train. It is written by Virginia DeFrancisco. It is a beautifully illustrated story that teaches kids about water conservation through the eyes of a curious little girl named Emma. With climate change and droughts on the rise, this is a timely book that is making waves, pun intended, with readers of all ages. Virginia, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed our interview. Thank you.
I enjoyed speaking with you as well. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time, until next time on Spotlight.